Hello YouTube. Today we are going to discuss a very debated topic. Is vaccine related to autism? Well, the answer is obviously no. But we're not just going to end it here. We are going to learn how this intercontinental rumor came about. I mean, everybody discusses about it. So it must have some kind of strong background, and that is what we're going to talk about. So where did it all started? Well, it started with this man, Andrew Wakefield. We'll discuss more about him later on, but let's just know what he did. Basically, in on 20th February 1998, he is a British gastroenterologist, by the way, and his colleagues, they published a paper on the famous journal The Lancet, in which he described 8 children who had symptoms of autism that appeared 1 month after receiving MMR vaccine, which stands for measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, that is generally given on 12 to 13 month in UK according to their immunization schedule. These 8 children had gastrointestinal symptoms, lymphoid hyperplasia, all those revealed on endoscopy. And from these observations, Dr. Wakefield he postulated that MMR vaccine caused intestinal inflammation that led to the translocation of the non-permeable peptides to the bloodstream and then to the brain where they affected the development. Now this research had a lot of problems. We'll discuss it one by one, but must discuss one major problem. And the major problem that it had was that it did not include control subjects. Now, whenever you do research, you do want to include control subject in order to differentiate autism, from whether the autism relation with MMR vaccine was causal or coincidental. So what do I mean by this? Well, let me give you an example. Suppose it's a month of July, it's hot out there, and for 1 month you increased your consumption of ice cream because it's hot, and you also had sunburn. Now you obviously you know that they are related, so you call them they are correlated. So there's a correlation between eating a lot of ice cream and sunburn. But you do not want to say that you consuming a lot of ice cream caused you to have sunburn. Both have both have correlation, but they are not causal to each other. So correlation is not causation. So what caused it? So it's a dry, hot, sunny summer weather. Increase your consumption of ice cream caused you sunburn. The real cause is the sun, not the ice cream or sunburn. So you mistake causation with correlation, and it especially happens if you lack control, which in Mr. Dr. Andrew Wakefield research he lacked the control group, which is absolutely terrible to be published in the Lancet. And other okay, let's do the simple math here before that. See, it was in 1998. So during that period, at least 50,000 British children per month received MMR vaccine, and at the age of between 1 to 2 years, which is obviously comes under the EPI schedule of UK. And this is the age where autism typically presents, because autistic spectrum disorder is a social disorder. So it will present itself only when the children start socializing with their parents, which starts generally between age and 1 and 2 years. Now let's do the simple math. In 1998, 1 out of 2,000 children were diagnosed with autism, autistic spectrum disorder. 50,000 children had MMR vaccine every month. Do the simple math. 50,000 divided by 2,000, you get 25. You get 25. So even if you consider the coincidence, there will be 25 children who would have autism and who would have MMR vaccine. So his research can no way conclude that MMR vaccine caused autism. And other issues in his research were some of the children, the gastrointestinal symptoms did not predate autism, which means autism appeared before gastrointestinal symptom. So his hypothesis of some peptide entering the bloodstream, it just doesn't work here. Also, the MMR vaccine, measles, mumps, rubella vaccine viruses, they do not cause any kind of chronic intestinal inflammation or loss of intestinal barrier. So again, another mistake. And his so-called peptide, his so-called encephalopathic peptides have never been identified. So many mistakes still got published in Lancet, caused wildfire of misconception, caused retraction of people from having vaccination, increased incidence of measles, people dying of disease that can be prevented from vaccine. That is so saddening. Nothing can be more saddening than that. Right now in COVID-19 pandemic, we are searching for its vaccine. We have found some of the vaccines and we just want it to be more efficient, and here we are having people retracting themselves from vaccine. This is so sad if you think about it. So the another issue that caused the people retracting from MMR is the thimerosal. So what is thimerosal? Well, some of you are into the chemistry, you might have recognized this element. It's mercury, and you know that it's not very friendly with our body. Generally, thimerosal is used as a preservative in a multi-dose vial vaccine. So multi-dose vial, what do I mean by that? So they, the vaccine comes in vial, they are sterilized. So when you prepare a vaccine for influenza, you need to prepare for the whole country. So it is more efficient to store them in a single vial from which you can take out 2 to 3 doses for different people. So in that case, you are inserting different syringes every time. So there is increased chance of contamination by bacteria and fungi. And to prevent that, we need this thimerosal, which contains mercury, which are toxic to those bacteria and fungi, because you do not want bacteria to enter inside bloodstream. So this works as a preservative. But the problem is, in body, this thimerosal is broken down into this thiosalicylate and ethyl mercury. And as we all know, mercury is toxic to our body. And ethyl mercury is an organic mercurial, so it might get easily absorbed in the lipid membranes and get stored in the central nervous system and affects our tissues. However, we must remember, as I said earlier, that it is used for multi-dose vials of flu vaccine, and in some childhood vaccines like DPT and DPT, Haemophilus influenzae B combination. Well, what we need to understand is that in the case of DPT, it's a different story. They use it for manufacturing, and after that they formulate and then remove it, and only traces are present in DPT. Only traces, very less. So what we need to understand is that ethyl mercury is not as toxic as compared to methyl mercury because it easily clears out of the blood, and also the amount of thimerosal is so low that it's equivalent to eating one tuna fish. So you get vaccinated or you eat one tuna fish, you will have same amount of mercury in your body. So it's not that dangerous. And the misconception, it came from methyl mercury, which is harmful to the nervous system. It's more toxic, but still it's mercury, it's toxic. So what the uh, US Public Health Service in 1999 decided that they want to remove as much mercury from vaccine as possible, and thimerosal was the only source. So they tried to cut the thimerosal from the vaccine. So it was made as a precautionary measure. I mean, there was no evidence that it was dangerous, but it was removed as a precautionary measure, and people panicked because of this. They thought that mercury and autism had some relation. Again, adding fuel to the previous fire that was sparked by Dr. Andrew Wakefield. Now, so what they use instead of thimerosal now? So as I said, it worked as a preservative. So what they use now? They use single dose vials, that is only one syringe at a time. You do not have multiple doses. You use the vial once, you throw it. So no preservative required. Here I would like to mention Karen Waterhan. She was an American professor of chemistry at Dartmouth College, and she specialized in toxic metal exposure. She was researching on dimethyl mercury, and she died at the age of 48 due to accidental exposure to the organic mercury compound dimethyl mercury. I'm mentioning this just to make sure to make you understand how dangerous is methyl mercury. That is why they were taking precautionary measure. And you know what? One interesting thing is that the chemical got absorbed through the gloves, and after this fatal incident, whoever does experiment with dimethyl mercury, they are required to wear at least two gloves. This is the reason. Now again, back to our Dr. Andrew Wakefield. He did another mistake. What was another mistake? He did not disclose to the Lancet that his research was funded by Legal Aid Board. Now this Legal Aid Board is, these are the charity program which are run by the parents of children suffering from immunization. So he being funded by the parents of children suffering from bad effects of immunization, it just strikes some kind of bias being involved in his research, and he not disclosing this in the conflict of interest makes it even worse. So that is why in 2010 Lancet retracted that paper only after 12 years, but the damage has been done. There are still people who believe that vaccination and autism are related, and it must be prevented. I mean, again, so the same thing. His theory, it became an overnight accepted wisdom. It spread like a wildfire. Everybody started supporting him during the first period, and only 12 years later we realized in 2010 that he was actually lying. He did a lot of mistakes, but now we cannot go back, but we can still improve the situation. So there are researches that disapprove the relation. So here are list of 13 researches, most of them being ecological. I will explain what is ecological study design later on, but these studies they failed to support an association between measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. So there are more research that disapprove the relation, and just one research that says that autism and vaccination are related. So which one would you believe? Would you believe just one that says something controversial, or multiple which says that what we are doing is right, vaccination is good. Of course, you want to believe majority of them. That is what scientific consensus idea is depended on. But no, people like conspiracy theory. That is how our mind is made. We just want to like thing that attacks, that goes against our preconceived notion. Still, you can get the links in the description about all this research. Again, the same thing. uh, Journal for specialists in pediatric nursing. There has been not identified links between autism and either thimerosal containing vaccine or the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. So there are no any evidence. Again, the same thing, no evidence. Here I like to talk about a guy called John Snow. I'm sorry, not this guy. This guy, John Snow. He was the first person to do the ecological research. Remember, I wanted to explain about the ecological research. Most of the research paper which disapprove the relation between autism and MMR are ecological one, and I just want to explain what is ecological. So basically, in ecological, what you do is that you map the disease and its risk factor, and on the basis of that map, you identify the risk factor. So what he did was he did a research on cholera. He basically took all the people of London having cholera and then mapped them. And he found that most of them concentrated around a hand pump. So he concluded that pump must have some kind of water contamination, and they stopped using that pump. After that, the cholera incident decreased. So he proved that contaminated water was the cause of cholera. He did not know the microorganism. It was later identified by Louis Pasteur, but he was the first person to do the ecological method of research, which is again done by scientists right now, to disapprove this MMR and autism fake rumor created by our British gastroenterologist. So just a anecdote. So what are the aftermaths of this guy? This MMR vaccine and autism. Well, according to World Health Organization, on 5th December 2019, 140,000 people died from measles in 2018, and this was a SARS. The SARS was worldwide. Now we exactly don't know what caused this SARS globally, but we can guess. This MMR and autism relation must have some kind of role to play. Again, a death of a toddler in Germany, starting the vaccination debate. So, what's the proof? What's the proof that this vaccine autism linkage was the factor? Well, this research, according to Rosenberg et al., most of the people believe that vaccination autism linkage was the largest factor associated with delay or omission of one or more vaccine. This is the research that proved that the vaccine autism linkage. People were asking a lot of parents in especially Western Europe and United States, and a lot of them wanted to regress from vaccination, which is it's a very sad thing to hear. People dying from a disease which can be prevented through vaccination. Again, and this is not only limited to Western Europe and United States, in non-Western countries too. In Saudi Arabia, in Kerala, India, vaccine-related explanatory models for autism were used to deflect from vaccination. So the vaccine autism linkage was the major factor. So we can say that this is causing a lot of deaths. So it must be prevented. We must make ourselves understand that MMR and autism has no relation whatsoever, and it must end soon. So now the question is, did this guy stop after all these deaths? Well, no. In 2016, he directed a movie called Vaxxed, From Cover Up to Catastrophe, and he is still running anti-vaccination movement. When will he stop? I mean, why will he not agree to that his research was wrong? I don't know why, but he's not agreeing that his research was wrong. He's just still promoting this anti-vaccination. This must be stopped. Come on. People are dying from a disease that can be prevented. So is measles dangerous? Well, absolutely. According to CDC, 25% of people who get measles will be hospitalized. 0.1% will develop encephalitis, which is swelling of brain, infection in brain, inflammation in brain, and 0.1 to 0.2% of people will die even with the best care. So measles is dangerous. Do not regress from vaccine. Keep calm and get vaccinated. Do not believe in everything that you read in the internet. Do deep research. Thank you everyone.